Okay, we're recording now. And okay, so I'm going to start with a few slides just real quick, and then I'll introduce our speakers. So again, I'm Stephanie, and our officers were also here. I'll accept Erin. She'll probably join in if she has the right link, and if not, hopefully now that we are recording, we can actually share this out, and hopefully we won't have any other issues. So we are ISTF. We are originally one of two chapters in the U.S., student-led chapters, us in Yale, and now that's expanding to include, I think, Duke and UNC put in applications to have their own ISTF, as well as many nations have started their own group. So it's expanding, and if you would like to get involved with global ISTF, I can get you that information, and that way you can stay informed and they can send you links. We usually try to link up with them about once a year to kind of open up our perspective and see what work is going on around the world in other ISTF chapters. But for us, we're housed in the College of Natural Resources, and we pretty much just meet together once a month to be able to discuss any of the work our community does internationally, as well as inviting outside speakers. With that, our next meeting is actually not going to have a speaker. I was thinking we could do something different. So I was going to try to find some information on how Halloween or other similar holidays are celebrated across the globe, and kind of do something more interactive, a little bit more fun. Obviously, I enjoy featured speakers and research, not to say it's not fun, but you know, for some people that aren't always doing research, something just different to do. And then on our last meeting for this semester, we actually have a guest speaker. He was published in Science on through a collaborative paper that's looking into zoonotic diseases from deforestation. So his talk will actually be looking at estimating the cost of preventing another pandemic. So very, very important right now. If you have not gotten the emails, typically they're going to come from Ian, maybe me. We've tried our Gmail account, and since it's not an NCSU account, it sometimes gets into spam. So we'll try to make sure that you're always getting the emails, but if not, make sure we have your email and your name that you'd prefer. As well as if anyone is interested in leadership, starting with the next year, we'll look into elections. So definitely either let myself know or one of the other officers. And we do have social media pages, which if you all are comfortable, we would upload this recording to our social media page. That way it's accessible to our group. And with that, so I know this is not a picture of an elephant, so it's not necessarily what Jennifer's talking about, but I usually try to incorporate some kind of wildlife from whatever region we're talking about. So this is a pangolin, and it's very important or right now just because it's endangered, and it's one of the most endangered, I believe, and because of its scales. And so I wanted to show this just because they're very cute, but then also because it's very relevant, I think, to current wildlife issues. And so with that, she'll have a video that I'll turn on after her speech or her talk. But for now, I'm going to stop sharing and let Jennifer take over.
Okay, share my screen.
Yeah, make sure.
Hi guys, can you all see my screen? Okay, so yeah, I'm Jennifer, and I just wanted to share my experience as a forestry college student in Nigeria. So I'm going to be talking about the Student Industrial Work Experience Scheme at the University of Ibadan. So it's a skill and training program that the federal government set up for science and technology students. So it's more like an internship that we all do, but in this case, it's more hands-on field trips and like lab work and all of that, as against just sitting in the office. So I thought to like take you guys through Nigeria a bit. I'm from Edo State here, and that's where, though I wasn't born there and I never lived there, but in Nigeria, what we do is called the state of origin. So that's where my forefathers are from. So that's where I'm from. And I live here in Abuja. But then I was born here in Lagos, and I had my elementary school and all of that in Lagos. And then I moved to Oyo State here, and that's where I had my college degree. And for the CWES program, we had to move to 2 different states here in the West. So we went to Ogun State and then we went to Osun State. So we kind of like moved around the West for this experience and for the training program. And so like I said, it's just about improving entrepreneurial skills for students and kind of bridging the gap between industry and students and make students more marketable. And it's a 1-year program. So we had 6 months in school on campus, and then we did the other 6 months moving from one location to the other. And for the first 6 months that we had on campus in school, what we did was raise a lot of tree seedlings. We were just raising seedlings. And I highlighted Tectona grandis, it's called teak, that's the common name, and Melissia excelsa, Iroko tree, because we raised a lot of teak seedlings. We had about 1,200 teak seedlings for each student. And Melissia excelsa is called African Iroko tree. It's very symbolic for us. It has a cultural perspective. So I just thought to highlight those 2 trees for time's sake. So, and then I put a teak plantation too, so I don't have too much white space here. So the African Iroko tree, the seeds are very tiny. For us to propagate it, we had to do that in a sieve, like a very small sieve. And like I said, it does cultural views. And, we've had stories of when people were having intertribal wars and civil wars, we had people hiding in the base of the tree because it's very big. There are also people that have they think it as a god. This is a shrine where people come to worship the tree. And we've had folklore tales of women going to pray to the tree to have children. We had stories growing up that people died when they tried to cut down the tree, like they got struck by thunderstorm. And I think the majestic or dramatic way the trees have their branches in kind of make people think it's a god. That's what I think anyway. Yeah, so that's for Iroko tree. And then I just wanted to share with you guys how we raised the teak seedlings, how each student was able to raise 1,200 seedlings. So this is me in college then, about 8 years ago or so. So we first of all made beds. It was about 1 foot high. We wet the beds. Then we broadcasted the seeds on the beds. These are some of my classmates then. We had to pre-treat the seeds to break dormancy. We did that by putting the seeds in a jute bag and soaking them in water for a couple of days before broadcasting on the bed. And then for us to be able to for logistics purpose for the 1,200, we filled pots and we filled them in blocks. So we had 100 pots in a block, and you have 12 blocks, and each student has a row of 12 blocks, 100 pots in each block. And then when your seedlings start sprouting on the bed, you move them into the pots, and this is what it looks like. This is what it was looking like after 5 months, So this was basically what we were doing for about 6 months in school. Then we started moving to different locations. We went to another state and we spent 7 weeks here. There's the Leventis Foundation Nigeria. Here they're more about community empowerment. They kind of teach the people around them to use the best use of what they have in their environment. So that was where I was first exposed to non-timber forest products. So there was snail farming, we experienced beekeeping, honey production. There was a lot of agroforestry done there too. This was a plot that we had marked out to plant teak seedlings and corn seeds, that's maize. So I think we did this marking. So these bamboo poles were the spots we're going to put our teak seedlings, and then we're going to plant corn seeds in between the spacing. This is another agroforestry plot here. The corn had already started growing, and there was also oil palm on the field. We also experienced juicing palm oil from the seeds. You know, they had the seeds in a jute bag, and some of the women would like march on the jute bag to kind of extract the oil from it. So I couldn't get all those pictures because it's a long time ago. I had to call a lot of my classmates to get some pictures. So it was an interesting experience, you know, because I hadn't like experienced all of those before. Then we went to another location, the Forest Research Institute of Nigeria, and that's where you have like top forest scientists working. And some of the things I learned there were kind of abstract because it was a lot of technical stuffs, soil physics, soil science, a lot of things I hadn't experienced in my undergrad. Tree physiology, they were doing genetic improvements of many West African indigenous tree species. There was sericulture. Sericulture is the rearing of silkworm to produce silk. That was so beautiful. I couldn't get a picture of that. And then the wood seasoning and preservation units, they were making briquettes. They made this nice efficient stove with wood to reduce smoke, and you know, floorboarding, a lot of things they did with the wood. They also had a pine unit where they were raising pine, but what they were doing there was Pinus caribia. That was the tree pine species they were raising there. This is a colleague of mine, one of my classmates, transplanting Pinus caribia seedling. And then the next place we went to was J4, and we spent another 7 weeks here. We spent 7 weeks in each of these locations. And this is where I have the video that Stephanie is going to play later for us. And so this forest reserve has gotten a lot of media attention in Nigeria because it has a nice ecosystem, but it's been getting degraded. A lot of deforestation, illegal deforestation. There's a truck of big logs being moved out of the forest. You have, there used to be elephants there, but because people have started deforesting the area, moving away from the plantation into the natural forest, you have many biodiversity being lost, and I guess the elephants are retreating back. So I'm just gonna let Steph play the video of this place to kind of encompass everything I'm trying to talk about here. And that's all. This picture of my classmates. I don't know if you guys can figure out why I'm here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so let's give her a round of applause. That was really awesome. It's amazing that the opportunities that we're able to take part in and that you're able to, you know, participate in, especially when things are a little bit more normal in the world. But I think that was such a great, your photos are awesome. And I just learned what sericulture was, and it sounds fascinating. I'm going to Google it. So let me get to that screen and share my screen with you all so we can watch. Hold on, make sure. Okay, you could hear, let me know if you can't hear the sound.
Peyton Zoo and the Whitley Wildlife Conservation Trust have been involved in conservation in Nigeria since about the mid-1990s, and we ended up sponsoring the environmental education project in the Omo Forest Reserve, where the forest elephants had been discovered pretty close to the commercial capital of Lagos.
Settlements are growing in size, so you have increasing population. The settlements are growing, and so forest is being cleared for housing and then subsistence farming even around those areas.
So there's a lot of people in the area, a lot of poverty, and one of the problems is that there's very limited economic opportunities for people, and so if there's no enforcement, if there's no education, then of course people are going to see forests as essentially sort of empty land, which to them just seems to be available to exploit or to clear for farming.
Once an area of land is being opened, it's being cleared, then set on fire, then the diversity of that place is gone. When you bring in crops, it is only some few resilient species that can utilize that same portion of land.
Logging is also a huge activity, and because we have the government plantations around, people overstep the boundaries of that into the natural forest and take natural wood.
Forest elephants lives here, and they play an important ecological role. They disperse seed. Also, they modify the structure of the vegetation.
The OSO project is not just about the elephant, but the elephants are the key species, because every other thing around, most species, plants, animals, somehow benefit from the activities of elephants in this forest.
What are we leaving to the next generation? If we kill all of them, what are we leaving to the next generation? So it's a cultural thing even for us. It's something that is very important for us, that these elephants must survive.
So now we have this idea of the Omo Forest Elephant Initiative, which seeks to establish new conservation areas, new wildlife sanctuaries, not only in the Omo Forest Reserve, but also in the adjacent Oluwa and Shasha forest reserves.
We have very limited number of wildlife.
There's all the sort of typical African rainforest fauna. There are duikers,
African grey parrots,
Forest elephant,
Pangolin,
Nigerian Cameroon chimpanzee,
the white-throated guenon.
yellow-casqued hornbill.
if they go into extinctions, they that are children will not be able to see them, will not be able to know the type of the animal or the type of the plant. We tell them that those endangered species of the animals and the plants should be kept and should be sustained.
We're taking a twofold approach to sort of mitigating those threats and to conserving the area. One is the long-standing education project, which we're hoping will raise awareness of both of the importance of the forest and the wildlife within it ecologically. And the other strand to conservation is the more sort of formal protection, which we need the state governments involved to outline what activities are legal or allowed in the remaining core areas of rainforest and to police that.
If there is a proper education and awareness, it will guide people on how to live, how to appreciate their environment, and even if they want to depend on the forest, how to do it on a sustainable basis.
We tell people to conserve the nature, and we tell people to protect the white.
I think Jennifer had mentioned that about after 5 minutes, it was pretty much the gist. So since we started late, if it's okay, I was gonna move back over to the slides so that we can introduce our next speaker. Were there any questions for Jennifer real quick while we're transitioning over?
What were the species of those big trees they were cutting?
Oh, yeah, some mahogany and some Iroko trees as well.
So like African mahogany, kaya, or
Yeah, Kaya senegalensis.
okay.
Jennifer, I was just wondering whether you've ever had a chance to see those elephants. I'm sure they're incredibly rare and probably mostly only caught with like cameras positioned in the forest, but have you ever had an opportunity to see them?
No, so when we were there, we had walked about 10 miles, my classmates and I, into the forest to see if we could get like a track or something, but no, we didn't.
Are there any other questions? If not, we can move over to Anne, and then we can always, depending on how much time we have, come back and have questions for both speakers.
That sounds good. Stephanie, should I go ahead and
Yeah, I was gonna I'll say I was gonna show so a lot of people tell me my dog looks like a hyena. So I figured I would show a hyena because Anne is gonna speak about the Gambia. So I will stop sharing and let her take over and talk about her Peace Corps experience.
Yeah, Stephanie, that actually brings back a memory of one of the parks. They have hyenas that I guess they've been raising for quite some time, so they're much larger than they would normally be, and they let tourists go into the cage. And I saw 2 Norwegian tourists go in, and the hyenas were rubbing all against their necks and everything. They were very nervous. Their children were also very nervous. Anyways, okay, so Jennifer, thank you. That was really interesting, and I certainly learned a lot. My presentation will be a bit different, but we will stay in West Africa. So my Peace Corps experience in the Gambia. So what we're going to cover today, I'm going to provide a little background about myself, the United States Peace Corps, and Peace Corps the Gambia, but I will be mainly focusing on my experience working with the NGO Because Gambia. In the Gambia, most volunteers are assigned to specific communities. My posting was a little bit different because I was assigned to an organization. So first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. Yes, the now infamous Charlottesville. I actually stayed in Charlottesville for my undergrad and graduated from the University of Virginia with degrees in Foreign Affairs and Environmental Sciences. And after undergrad, I got experience working with a variety of organizations. I actually taught English and environmental sciences in China for a year, worked with the Sierra Club in Richmond for a year, served as a Peace Corps volunteer in the Gambia for just under 3.5 years, worked for the EPA for 3 years, and then joined NC State to pursue a master's in natural resources. It's been a long journey here, but I'm certainly happy to be here with you guys. So let's get into it. What is Peace Corps? I'm sure many of you have heard of Peace Corps, but in case you are less familiar with the organization, Peace Corps is an independent agency within the US government that runs a volunteer program sending US citizens to live and work in communities abroad. The program was originally established by executive order in 1961 and authorized by Congress in 1962 with the Peace Corps Act. The mission of the Peace Corps is to promote world peace and friendship by fulfilling 3 goals. 1, to help people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women. 2, to help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of people served. And 3, to help promote a better understanding of other peoples on the part of Americans. Today, we are working on goal number 3. Now, I know it may be difficult to read the fine text on this map, but basically, as of Peace Corps' 50th anniversary in 2011, more than 235,000 Peace Corps volunteers had served in 141 countries. Here you can see current Peace Corps countries highlighted in gold and past Peace Corps countries highlighted in blue. When the worldwide operations were shut down in March of this year due to COVID, volunteers were serving in more than 60 countries working in 6 different sectors, which are agriculture, community development, education, environment, health, and youth and development. So from September 2012 through December 2015, I served with Peace Corps the Gambia as part of the agriculture sector. The Gambia is right here on this map. It's surrounded by Senegal. It is the smallest country on mainland Africa with a land area of only a little more than 1 million hectares, and it actually is divided in half by the Gambia River, which runs right along the center of the country here. Peace Corps the Gambia opened in 1967 and has been operating continuously up until March of this year. Volunteers in the Gambia are assigned to one of 3 sectors: agriculture, education, or health, but oftentimes they end up working in multiple sectors. So as I mentioned earlier, I want to focus more on my time working with Beekeeping. So for a little background about Beekeeping, it is a UK-based charity organization aimed at promoting beekeeping as a way of improving livelihoods. It was established in 2009 when it became apparent that the National Beekeepers Association of the Gambia was not meeting the needs of beekeepers around the country. Much of Beekeeping's effort has been put into increasing the number of rural people keeping bees, providing training, increasing the volume and quality of bee products, improving access to markets, and encouraging positive attitudes toward bees. Even though Gambians have been working with bees for a long time, many are deathly afraid of bees, and for good reason. Bees in the Gambia are much more aggressive than what we are used to here. Oh, also, on the left here, we have Binta, and on the right, we have KB. Binta participated in one of my very first beekeeping trainings. She loved beekeeping, started volunteering at Beekeeping, and was eventually hired. KB is one of the main managers of the apiary at Kumukunda, which is also where, up until actually a couple months ago, Beekeeping was headquartered. So my time at Beekeeping. Now, during my 2-year assignment with Beekeeping, my time was split between Kumukunda, pictured here on the left, and traveling up country to implement projects funded by the United Nations Development Program, the British High Commission, and the Waterloo Foundation. With my Gambian counterparts at Beekeeping, we trained over 350 Gambian beekeepers from over 80 rural villages, as well as 60 national park rangers from 4 different national parks on best practices of rural beekeeping. We also trained Peace Corps volunteers coming into the country and provided ongoing technical support during their service. And in 2014, we actually hosted the West African Beekeeping Conference at Kumukunda, where we got the opportunity to train Peace Corps volunteers and Peace Corps staff from 6 West African nations. Now, besides training, I was also involved in the evaluation and purchasing of honey and wax. During harvest season, we would travel to villages, evaluate, purchase, and when necessary, train local beekeepers on techniques that would improve the quality as well as the quantity of their harvest. Now, even though I was involved in all these different projects, my main assignment really was to build the technical capacity of BeeCorps' 7 trainers through mentorship and collaboration. But we also did many other fun things, like remove colonies from walls. This is actually a colony that was in the ranger station of one of the parks, and it was near where the tourists were, so we removed it, put it into a hive, and took it to Kumakunda. But really, why were we doing all this? Ultimately, we wanted to promote beekeeping for 4 primary reasons. First, bee byproducts, specifically honey and wax, can be a good alternative source of income, and in some cases, a primary source of income for families in the Gambia. And with honey and wax, value-added products such as soap, body cream, lip balm, and candles can be made to generate even more income. On the far left here, we have newly processed wax, which will then be used to make value-added products. And in the center, we have a comb of capped honey. This is the type of comb we encourage beekeepers to harvest because the honey had a very low water content and as a result would have a long shelf life. And then on the far right here, we have jars of honey in the background and homemade soap in the foreground. The soap was made with honey, wax, and other products that are easily found in the Gambia. So second, as we all know, bees pollinate many of the plants that we need for survival. In the Gambia, bees help to boost garden yields as well as orange, mango, and cashew crops, which are both consumed and used for income. Overall, bees improve the size and quantity of many local fruits and vegetables grown in the Gambia. Third, beekeeping encourages people to protect forests. Bees need trees. Once folks start earning an income from beekeeping, they quickly become better stewards of the forests in their area. Ultimately, beekeepers understand that they need a strong, healthy colony for honey and wax production. Forests not only provide bees with a variety of forage sources throughout the year, but they also provide colonies with shade. When a hive is placed under direct sun all day, the combs typically begin to melt and then the bees will abscond soon after. When the hives are placed in a more forested area, they tend to thrive. On the right here, we have a cleared landscape that really can't support honeybee colonies, while on the left, we have a landscape that has been cleared some, but is still suitable for honeybees. So before moving on to the 4th reason for promoting beekeeping, I want to share a commonly used phrase amongst beekeepers, especially in the Gambia. It goes, no trees, no bees, no honey, no money. I know it's extremely cheesy, but I think it gets the point across. And 4th, beekeepers help to promote local help to protect local bee populations. At BeeCorps, one of our target groups were honey hunters, or bee killers as they're sometimes called. Honey hunters are people that go out into the bush at night and target wild colonies like the ones pictured here. You can see one here on the right, and actually there are 2 wild colonies here in the left-hand picture. Open fire is used to essentially kill the colony so the honey hunter can more safely harvest the honeycomb. In the process, the wax is ruined, the honey loses its quality, both because it becomes smoky and because it's mixed with brood and other bee products. And frequently bushfires are started because much of the honey hunting takes place during the dry season. We found at BeeCorps that converting honey hunters into beekeepers was not only good for wild colonies, but also for honey hunters. The honey hunters already understood the value of honey, and they were already comfortable working around bees. With a little bit of training around colonization, hive management, and processing, reformed honey hunters quickly became some of the most successful beekeepers with high quality products. So what beekeeping methods are recommended by PeaceCorps? First, catcher boxes. Like the name indicates, these boxes are used to catch honeybee swarms. They're placed hanging from trees, like this one over here in the right-hand picture. And they're placed as far up as you can get them. They're baited with wax to attract the bees. And once colonized, they're left for typically 6 to 8 weeks and then transferred to a larger movable comb hive, such as the Kenyan top bar hive. In the picture over here on the left, you can see a catcher box being transferred into a larger Kenyan top bar hive. Second, as I mentioned on the last slide, PeaceCorps is a big advocate of Kenyan top bar hives. Here are a couple top bar hives. The one here on the right is made from bamboo, and it's lined with dung to seal off the cracks. The one here on the top left is made from grass, while the one on the bottom is made from wood. Really, all sorts of material are used to make KTBs. I've seen KTBs made of wood, bamboo, cement, grass, and metal. And third, PeaceCorps recommends grass hives with top bars for those that live in areas where the thatching type grass is easily accessible. Now, sometimes folks simply do not have the resources or the money to invest in top bar hive technology. When this is the case, we encourage beekeeping with fixed comb hives, such as the grass hive you see here on the right, and the log hives you see here on the left. But really, almost anything can be used as a hive. I've seen hives made out of trunks, metal trunks that is, wooden boxes, clay pots, mortars, plastic jerry cans. The advantage with fixed comb hives are that they are cheaper, require less management, and are easier to learn how to make. The main disadvantages really are that the brood is often destroyed during harvest, and the bees often abscond afterwards. Well, that's all I have for today. I thank you guys for listening and appreciate you all being open to a presentation that's a little bit different than what we normally have in our meetings. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Were you assigned to the Gambia or did you choose to go there?
That's a great question. So when I joined the Peace Corps, they had the option of basically saying that you're willing to go anywhere in the world, or kind of give a preference for a particular region. Now it's changed, and folks basically apply to a particular country or multiple countries, hoping that they get accepted to one. When I applied, said that I was willing to go anywhere, and I was sent to the Gambia. And to be completely honest with you, I had never heard of the Gambia, and I had to Google it to find the country. Yeah, so.
Is the first language there English or French, like the surrounding Senegal?
Yeah, so the official language is English. You know, people are taught English in school, but there are multiple local languages that are used. It's very similar to Senegal. Culturally, you have the same ethnic groups, the same traditions, but yeah, you have French as the dominant language in Senegal. So.
Did you have experience in beekeeping prior to working with PeaceCorps?
I did, yes. So I actually started beekeeping when I was in undergrad. One of my best friend's boyfriends was a beekeeper, and he would talk about it all the time. And I was like, I want to try this out. So I got some hives. They were on a farm, one of my family friends' farms outside of Charlottesville when I was in undergrad. And that's when I started. Of course, I went different places. So in the meantime, my mom was wonderful and took care of the hives for me.
So. Do the bees typically have a preferred habitat, like a certain tree, other than obviously shaded areas?
Yeah, no, definitely. So they love the Baobab trees. The scent of the flower is not that great. I mean, I don't think so, but the bees love it. And even though those trees are somewhat sparse at certain times of the year when they've lost their leaves, the bees love it, and they will, I think I actually have a picture of a colony that's in the side of a baobab tree. Sorry, I added on some pictures just in case there were any questions.
We love pictures. That's fine.
So this one's a silk cotton. You see this colony is just in vines. But let me see. They do love, here are baobab trees. Oh, I don't have it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No, I was just curious because obviously it seems like they're very adaptable for their habitat. But if just thinking about what is their preferred, or, you know, in case you're thinking about if, I don't know how in unsuccessful beehive cases, if they prefer to relocate, if they're able to.
Yes, no, they do. One dominant characteristic of the honeybees in West Africa is that they abscond really quickly if they don't like the location. It could be disturbance from, you know, ants, people, or it could simply be that it's too hot and dry, and they will go to a different area that's more forested. So, yeah. And that's why a lot of the beekeepers actually on the south bank of the river do much better, because you have denser tropical dryland forests there, whereas on the north bank, it's getting drier and drier, and a lot of it's been cleared for agriculture.
So quick question, Ann. So the baobab trees, you know, on my one trip there, I saw those, I guess in Tanzania, but it seemed like they're becoming more rare, at least as regeneration. Is that a problem as well in the Gambia?
Yeah, so I mean,
is doing a really good job. They've started it from the bottom.
Sorry, say that again. So Fred, yes, to your question, they're really slow to grow, but they're actually one of the last trees to be removed. People will, you know, peel off the bark and use it for rope and weaving baskets and all sorts of things, fishing lines. So a lot of it, and honestly, they're really difficult to cut down. People are cutting trees down with chainsaws when they're available, but still a lot by hand. And a lot of them are really large and they're just too much to tackle. Plus the wood isn't that great. So the old trees are left, but many of the young seedlings, it becomes difficult for them to get established because they're taken out before they can. There was actually a volunteer assigned to a school in one of the main cities, and a couple of volunteers before him, they planted a couple baobab seedlings in this enclosed garden area. I don't know what's going to happen when they get really big because they're way too close together, but they were 10 years old and they were so small. So, should have had a picture of that.
You're good. Okay. With 5 minutes left, I was going to open up the questions to both Ann and Jennifer.
And let me see if I can stop sharing here. Stop sharing. Okay, I see it.
Okay, and I'll open up a chat, make sure.
What do they use the wax for besides soap locally?
Yeah, so it's used as like a water repellent on different things. So if they want a basket to be, you know, lined so that it's better protected, they'll use it. But honestly, it's really valuable. It's more valuable than honey. And when a lot of the time people don't realize its value and will just discard the comb. But once they see that if they sell the wax to someone that makes soap or body creams and that they're getting more from it, that becomes the prized product from the hives.
Any other questions, comments? And that was, again, amazing, just like Jennifer's presentation. I think I can speak for most of us saying that it's been really nice to see all these pictures and see the video that Jennifer shared with us, especially when obviously all of us are pretty much working from a computer screen these days, but it's sometimes nice to escape as much as we can through some of these experiences that our community members have been able to participate in. And then obviously sharing it with us is very, I think, even, for us, very special, because we're able to see the opportunities as well as how far the NC State community reaches into other communities across the globe. With that, I was going to, if there's any last questions, we can have them. And if not, just give another hand of applause to our speakers today.
Maybe Stephanie, if I may just say two things. First of all, yes, congratulations to both ladies. I think you both did an excellent job, and it was certainly an enjoyable meeting. Just a comment on the bees and with Anne's presentation. It was a question that I was going to ask, and then you actually addressed it very well, and that was regards to the potential of causing fire when folks want to rob the hives, etc. Because in South Africa, where I come from, a lot of the forest is typically more planted forest, and to try and create sort of subsistence, as it were, for folks living in and around communities in and around the forest, they allow beekeepers to use those forests and set up hives, etc. But the same challenge arises when folks go in to try and rob those hives, rob the honey, and the fires that then start from that. So
yeah, no. So actually up country, they don't have as much of a problem with people coming in to try to steal from different hives. And I think that simply is because Gambia is a small country and the communities are really tight knit. But at Kumukunda, we had a big issue with people trying to come in at night to steal honeycomb from the hives. And they didn't use fire. They would bring in some sort of like bot, that used to kill roaches and decimate the hive that way. Of course, who knows what it's doing to the honey, because I'm sure you're not supposed to consume those chemicals, but yeah, that was a big issue. At one point, we were actually locking up hives with chains. So.
Was there any other questions, comments? Well, I don't want to hold you guys up on a Friday. I mean, such a nice day outside, right? So thank you so much for everyone participating and joining this conversation. I feel like this session was a very it was very informational and fun, and it was just kind of a nice, for me at least, break from work. And so I want to thank the speakers again and thank the members that attended, and remind you all that the next session will be we'll see how well hopefully it'll go a little better than this one with people or getting the right links out. And then also I'm going to try to set up a trivia that I have not tried before. So I guess will be the test subjects, but something a little bit more interactive in case, we want to do something more like a game, and then have our speaker in November from California. And Anne, don't worry about it. So I didn't know if anyone, obviously I'm an economist, so I had recognized value added products, but in case anyone didn't know that term, it's basically when you have a product that you sell and produce, and then you actually turn it into another final product. So a great example would be, obviously, Anne was explaining, turning the beeswax into creams. So they're a great way to make more money because you're processing them and you can increase what you're selling them for. But I didn't know if anyone else had recognized that. So I was like, okay, maybe just that's me pointing it out. But okay, with that, I'll let everyone leave, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Stephanie, can I just ask you a quick question following up for later? For the recording, where do you want to have them? Do you want just on